Kawhi Leonard not playing last night, load management. He came out and said, listen, man, these are 82 practices for me. And once game one comes around, that's when I lace him up and I really get after it. And obviously it caused waves in Toronto, I'm sure throughout the NBA. Can't imagine that the commissioner loved hearing that. To chat about it, we're joined now by Bryan Windhorst from ESPN. Do you have any issue with the candid nature of Kawhi's comments?
I don't know. I mean, I always appreciate when players and, coaches and even owners, we had an owner over the weekend make very candid comments in Josh Harris. I don't get angry with somebody when they tell the truth, if that's the way they feel about it. And Kawhi is coming off a serious injury, a demonstrated injury, and he also is a guy who has won a championship before, been to multiple finals. So he knows exactly what he's talking about. I do think that in general, and this is a much bigger conversation than Kawhi and the Raptors, in general, I think there's a de-emphasis on the regular season that is hurting the NBA. It's one of the reasons that ratings are down. But that's a much bigger conversation than Kawhi Leonard and whether he shouldn't be playing. What I think I can say is that if the Raptors lose Kawhi Leonard this summer, it's not going to be because they didn't take care of him and make sure they protected him and his body as much as possible. Whatever happened between him and the Spurs, and it still mostly stayed internal there, Kawhi wasn't happy with the way the Spurs took care of him. And maybe there's 15 reasons or 15 things that Kawhi is going to decide about in free agency. But, boy, the Raptors have made it clear they're not going to be accused of not making sure he's taken care of as much as possible.
Well, and what I've been fascinated throughout this whole journey with is that his teammates, nothing has come out of the room. You know, they're the old school mentality, so to speak. I'm sure they would have been watching him on the bench last night in overtime thinking, we could use you. You know, if Kawhi played last night, I think they beat the Pistons. And I'm sure you can appreciate that, Bryan, as a reporter. I mean, I know there's reporters in Toronto sniffing it out, trying to get someone on the record. What do you think of Kawhi and load management? And nothing has come out of that room. And I think that's a credit to the Raptors. Obviously, they're being honest with the players and the teammates, and at least outwardly, they're fine with Kawhi missing games.
Yeah, and ultimately, I just don't think, this is not surprising. I just don't think Kawhi's a cuddly guy anyway. I think even if he was playing every game, and he was playing 43 minutes a night, I still think that there would potentially be some distance between him and his teammates. That's just the way he operates. It's always going to be business with him. That's the nature of who he is. And the thing about the Raptors is they've had such good regular seasons the last few years and then been disappointed in the playoffs. And even though there's new faces here, there in Toronto, I should say, this year, the organization feels that. And so the entire regular season takes on a bit of a more serious tone. Whereas you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, this is a honeymoon for them. They haven't won a playoff series in like a decade. They're in a brand new arena. They've got a lot of free agents, but Giannis isn't one of them. They're just floating along beautifully with the number one overall record, no problems in the world. They don't reach the finals, it's no big deal. They'll try again next year. They're in a different path on their journey, and I think that matters, and that affects how a team goes through the regular season day to day.
Well, and clearly, the Raptors they're in their own bubble, and they're worried about Kawhi and making sure he's comfortable and he's healthy and he's well rested and ready to play come playoff time. But if you pop that bubble and you look at Milwaukee, and specifically Milwaukee in the standings, obviously it feels like to me the Raptors are willing to concede that top seed because Milwaukee, they don't lose a lot of games anyway, and they have the tie break. But last night was an opportunity for the Raptors to push a little bit closer to Milwaukee, and it didn't happen. Do you get that impression like the Raptors are fine with just holding on to the 2 seed? They're not worried about teams behind them, and the chase for Milwaukee is not something they're really caring about right now.
Right. Well, the Raptors potentially are in a nice sweet spot. If somehow Indiana can hang on to the 3 seed, you want to be the 2 in that case. That's not to insult Indiana. They're just not as scary and dynamic as Boston or Philadelphia. But my goodness, if you can somehow keep the 2 and Indiana keeps the 3, you've hit the jackpot. You potentially only have to beat one of Philadelphia, Boston, or Milwaukee. I don't think that's going to happen, though. Indiana's already weakening a little bit, and Indiana's schedule in March this month is brutal. I really don't think that that's going to hold. But I think as an organization, the Raptors would tell you that having the higher seed doesn't matter as much as if your team's playing well, your team's healthy. And I think that's what they're trying to do. The crazy thing about it is, of course, you can be careful for 6 months, and it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be healthy when it matters.